We all know this, the backlog is getting bigger every week, and there's hardly time to ever reduce it. And I'm very sorry to say that after this video, it's probably even bigger, because I'm going to tell you about the 10 most underrated JRPGs, in my opinion, and in no particular order. What game do you think flew under the radar? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy videos about indie games, JRPGs, and more. Alright, let's go. To this day, I never understood why Scarlet Nexus didn't become a massive hit. In Scarlet Nexus, you can choose between two protagonists, which isn't just a nice gimmick. Yuito and Kazane experience very different events and travel with their own group of characters, which results in vastly different story and combat experiences. Scarlet Nexus actually has one of the coolest combat systems of the last 10 years because it's incredibly deep and complex, but never overwhelming. You can throw objects at enemies with psychokinesis, summon characters for a special attack that is required for certain combat situations, perform combo attacks with other characters, and a lot more. The result is a deeply satisfying, addictive, and immensely fun combat system that I just couldn't get enough of. On top of that, there are even simplified social elements so you can hang out with NPCs, get rewards, and get to know more of the beautiful cyberpunk world. The story is a simple one, but actually told in an engaging and surprisingly emotional way that definitely kept me interested the whole time. While this game has a big publisher behind it, I feel like this didn't get nearly as much praise as it deserves. Monster Hunter Stories 2 can be described easily. It's Capcom's version of Pokemon, only with better graphics, a more engaging story, and a turn-based combat system with far more depth. The bread and butter of games like these is the monster catching. In this game, this is done by stealing monster eggs from a monster den. You then take care of the egg until the cute little monster hatches and joins your brooded monster team. The combat relies on a rock paper scissors system, which is easy to learn and really satisfying to master. Swapping on monsters to react to dangerous situations or maximize damage requires a good strategy. The fact that some elements of the main Monster Hunter series made it into the spin-off makes it even better. Like, for example, attacking a monster's leg will eventually make it topple over, or hitting a Kuliako with a flash bomb will make it drop its beloved stone. These fantastic mechanics are what makes this one of my favorite modern turn-based combat system. And the story is surprisingly engaging too. What starts off as a lighthearted adventure quickly picks up the pace and even touches on serious themes like prejudices, animal exploitation, and the importance of nature. Monster Hunter Stories 2 has an addictive gameplay loop, beautiful visuals, and a superb story, and this is why I think this deserves way more attention. This one always hurts me, because basically nobody talks about it. The Trials of Mana remake got good reviews, yet I think too many people skip this fantastic action JRPG. The story is a mostly lighthearted experience that may be more on the simple side of things, but the excellent straightforward action combat system definitely makes up for that. Your party consists of 3 of the 6 characters, which can be controlled by the player during combat. The class system is what brings in depth by letting you choose between multiple branches to evolve from your base class. So ultimately, you can form a party with the skills and roles you want and that fit your playstyle. And since there are tons of character class combinations, this is one of the JRPGs with the highest replay values. On top of that, you also get a beautiful world that is packed with items to find, so exploration is motivating and super fun. Also, the remastered soundtrack is perfect, with some of the most memorable melodies from the SNES and a fantastic modernization. Trials of Mana got the perfect remake that stays true to its original, while modernizing just enough to make this one of the best JRPGs on the PS4. Seriously, give this one a try if you're looking for a short, straightforward, and simply fun JRPG. You won't regret it. Do you even know Terranigma? If not, then maybe that's because this game got released relatively late in the SNES's lifecycle. The Nintendo 64 and PlayStation 1 were about to release, but Enix and Nintendo released this game in 1995 on the SNES, and unfortunately, it didn't get the attention it deserved because many people were already playing 3D games on a new console. And also, this never got released in North America, so only Europe and Japan got to experience this beautiful SNES title. Terranigma is an action RPG with a very similar combat system to Secret of Mana, only more dynamic because there are multiple attacks you can perform based on the movement of the character, and several magic spells to cast. It's definitely the best real-time combat you can get on the SNES for sure. In addition to the combat system, Terranigma was also ahead of its time in other respects. It has this unique story progression where you need to recreate the world, so you're basically playing gods. After you get the continents back and all the animals, plants and humans, you have to continue your adventure there. The fact that you're responsible for creating a world makes it feel like the world is one of the most important characters, rather than just a place to wander around. If there's any game that needs a remaster or remake, this is the one that should get it, because then far more people would be able to experience this beautiful and highly underrated gem. Yet another Square Enix IP, I know, but Star Ocean never really got the recognition it deserves outside of Japan, and the third entry especially is such an underrated JRPG. The mix of underdeveloped planets and a medieval setting with sci-fi elements is so captivating to this day. Admittedly, the dialogue is kind of horrible, but the story itself is wild, and when I say wild, I mean it's wild. The twists and turns are so weird and surprising, yet so cool and brave at the same time, which is why I love replaying this game over and over again. Back in the day, the combat was revolutionary for me. Up until then, I only played turn-based JRPGs, and then Star Ocean had this real-time action combat. My 15-year-old mind was blown back then. To this day, I find the combat to be thrilling, challenging, and it still feels really good. There are countless awesome special attacks to unlock that make the combat look and feel super spectacular. Till the End of Time also was one of the few JRPGs I've played that made the effort of shaking up dungeon design a bit, giving them cool unique mechanics that made exploration even more fun. And of course, the soundtrack is so good, completely underrated. It's filled with catchy melodies, tracks that are JRPG versions of progressive metal, and beautifully calm pieces. Star Ocean 3 may not have the most fleshed out characters, but the cast is diverse, likable and memorable, making the story even more engaging. Star Ocean Till the End of Time is a weird game, I know, but man, playing this is so incredibly fun. This game has a very special place in my heart, and I think it's definitely one of the most underrated games ever. The series is old, and it took a long time for it to get the attention it deserves. With Ys 8, the series had a breakthrough, and it took gamers by storm. Well deserved, of course, but did you know that one of the best entries in the series is completely underrated? Ys 6, The Ark of Nepishtim, is the last entry in the Ys series that features Adol as the only playable character. And as always, Adol is stranded on an island and ends up in a conflict that threatens the world to be destroyed. As a player, we need to reclaim the power of the 3 elemental swords, and with that, combat feels super dynamic. Every sword feels vastly different because of the attack speed and the different special attacks. The result is a combat system that strikes the perfect balance of simplicity, depth, fluidity, and even a bit of strategy. Therefore, the gameplay loop is as addictive as we are used to from the Ys series, only noticeably more challenging. In my opinion, Ys 6 has one of the most intense and fun action combat systems of the PS2 era, and for that alone, it should be played by every JRPG fan. Everyone talks about Ys 8, 9 and 10, but Ys 6 deserves far more love and attention. It's incredible. Ni no Kuni 2 always lived in the shadow of its predecessor, which is a shame because it's such a good game and I feel like nobody talks about it anymore. Ni no Kuni 2 is a game about the foundation of society, respect and tolerance. Its story feels hopeless sometimes, as if there's absolutely no chance of change. But the character's strong will and determination make you believe that there's a future where everyone can live happily ever after. It's a story that may not be as deep or full of twists as the story of the first game, but it's engaging and full of heart. The action combat is simple yet highly addictive thanks to the Zing system that lets you change between 3 weapons and use powerful magic if a weapon is charged. That keeps the combat system dynamic and fun the whole time. On top of that, the Tactic Tweaker offers a lot of possibilities to change the effectiveness of elements, attack styles, or enemy affinities. It's such a cool system that I love to see being implemented in more games. And then there's the kingdom building part of the game that lets you rebuild your kingdom, which isn't just a fun little side activity, but rather a substantial part of the gameplay experience. Ni no Kuni 2 is a magical game with far more to offer than I even have the time to explain here. It's one that I recommend to every JRPG fan and people who want to get into the genre. It's underrated, it's fantastic, and I love it. Rogue Galaxy is a game that suffered from a poorly chosen release time. This came out in 2007 on the PS2, just a bit after the Japan and North America release of the PS3. Sadly, that's one big reason why it never got that much attention, despite it being one of the best JRPGs on the system. And there are a lot of reasons for that. The mash of sci-fi and sky pirates is one of the most unique settings to this day, with advanced and visually impressive worlds and underdeveloped planets full of life and character. The action combat where every character has a melee and range weapon, and teammates could perform combat attacks just like Chrono Trigger, was one of the best combat systems on the PS2. The story itself is a simple yet beautiful tale that starts off with the protagonist's modest dream and ends up in saving the whole galaxy. There are twists I definitely didn't see coming playing this as a teenager. The cast is quirky, likable, and memorable, and just has to be heavily inspired by the original cast of Star Wars. And there's so much more, like this addictive minigame where you can breed and fight with bugs, a great soundtrack, and beautiful visuals. Rogue Galaxy is actually available on the PSN, and if you're one of the JRPG fans that missed this game on the PS2, I highly recommend giving it a try on PS4 and 5. It's an incredible game. Every well-informed JRPG fan knows that Harvestella suffered from bad marketing because Square Enix wanted to sell this as a farming game with RPG mechanics. Realistically though, it's the other way around, and most importantly, it's a hell lot of fun. The story revolves around a mysterious phenomenon called quietus that happens between the change of seasons. It's dangerous for people, animals, trees, and plants, and it's your task to understand why quietus exists and how it can be stopped. The thing is, the story takes some really surprising turns that kept me hooked the whole time, and I can promise you that it gets pretty wild towards the end. The gameplay itself is an addictive mix of simplistic yet fun dungeon crawling where resource management plays a big role, and farming. You can spend a lot of time farming stuff, but you don't have to, which I highly appreciate. The result is a gameplay loop that may not shine with a lot of depth, but just works because simplicity is just perfect sometimes. The combat, while also quite simple, is always engaging and fun thanks to a bunch of different classes to unlock that feels and play vastly different. Harvestella was released in 2022 during a time when Square Enix released like 20 games in just 2 months, which is a big reason why so few people played this. But I can tell you, don't sleep on this. It's definitely underrated and overlooked, and I bet if you love JRPGs, you have a great time with it. Ha! What did you think? A Fatal Gaming list about JRPGs without crosscode? No way. I always find an excuse to talk about this masterpiece. I mean, it's one of my favorite games of all time for many reasons. The story is super captivating, and the pacing is so good that I couldn't stop playing because I always wanted to know what happens next. Uncovering the mysteries behind Leia, her being unable to talk, the fictional world of Crossworlds, and some of the characters is proof that Radical Fish games are masters when it comes to storytelling. There's so many emotional and heartbreaking moments, so many epic things happening that it's hard to not fall in love with Crosscode's story. Underneath the story, the gameplay discusses themes like identity, what it means to be human, and what's the purpose of life, which all makes the overall story even more engaging. But that's also because of the wonderful cast of characters, with unique and charming personalities. And even though Leia is not able to say very much, the artful character portraits breathe life into her and the rest of the cast. The action combat system is simply brilliant. The fast-paced combat requires both precision and strategy, as basically every enemy has a unique mechanic. Switching between the elemental powers while performing insane looking special attacks makes combat feel super dynamic. Especially boss fights are out of this world. They basically are puzzles in themselves, which is fun to figure out and satisfying to beat. Chef's kiss, really. And speaking of puzzles, this is my favorite part in this game. Crosscode is filled with incredibly well-designed puzzles that push you to the limit when it comes to being creative and being precise and fast. They can get extremely challenging, but solving them made me feel so smart it's almost ridiculous. And what is a JRPG without its soundtrack? The composer Dennis Arpulot created a beautiful mix of nostalgic instrumentalization and countless catchy melodies that makes the emotional, heartbreaking and epic moments even better. Crosscode is a masterpiece, and it's one of the best games I've ever played. Alright, that's the list. 10 of the most underrated and overlooked JRPGs. What JRPG do you consider underrated? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you like videos about JRPGs, indie games and more. Alright, thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.